What's in a name? From the sublime to the profane, from the sheer genius to the absolutely absurd. Here we are at Limassol Yacht Club in Cyprus. Question for you.
Okay.
Very, very difficult question,
Yep.
as usual. What's that?
A pint of milk.
Looks like a bottle of milk.
Well,
doesn't
yeah,
it?
bottle of milk,
That's
yeah.
probably half-used bottle of milk. It's a bottle of milk nonetheless, right? So if you were to see that, pretty much everybody in the world would know what that is.
Yep.
And where it came from. And just in case there's anybody in doubt, there is a picture of a cow.
Yeah, I can
on the
confirm
bottle
there is a cow.
There is a cow. So
Yeah.
the chances are that that came from one of these, right? That's not misleading.
No.
To put that on the bottle of milk is not misleading. Okay, but then on the other hand, if you look a bit closer, if you want to be a bit technical, as most people in our industry want to continue to analyse everything all the time, it says here that this milk is pasteurised. A consumer might wonder what that means, but they'll understand that pasteurised milk is something good and they'll buy the milk. What it really means is that it was heated up to a high temperature for a short space of time, which kills off specific bacteria, makes it last a bit longer, and therefore can be sold in the supermarket.
Yep.
So they're heating it up with something. That is a pressurised water reactor at a nuclear power station. That heats things up. There's a fair chance it didn't heat up that, that bottle of milk. Right?
Yeah.
Pretty much. So to put that, an image of something like that, something very, very powerful like
Yes,
that,
yeah.
on the bottle of milk, you'd laugh, wouldn't you, surely?
You probably wouldn't buy it either.
You wouldn't buy it. You'd think it was absurd. The Advertising Standards Agency would be
Yeah.
all over it. It'd be all over the national news and so forth. So, very funny? Yes.
Yep.
Absurd? Yes. Ridiculous? Of course. Have I lost my mind? Maybe. But I don't think it's me that's lost my mind in this particular circumstance.
How so?
I was approached by SciSec last week.
Okay.
Apparently, they've been looking at people in the industry, in the retail sector,
Yep.
running retail binary options and forex companies,
Okay.
who have been apparently distributing what they consider to be non-plausible marketing information or misleading marketing
Okay.
information. Very good, except that some of those companies concerned have got names which might as well be the same as a milk manufacturer putting a picture of that pressurised water reactor on their bottle of milk.
Okay, fair enough.
Right?
Yeah. So some of these, there are some quite outrageous names that we discussed. Primarily, I would say, in the binary options industry.
Oh, very much so, yes.
Because the logic behind it is if we have a more credible, in inverted commas, name, whether it's a bank, a country, or whatever, in the title of the
Yes,
brand,
some of them do have
then
this.
then psychologically the end user is going to say, by default,
Right.
I'm dealing with a credible organisation, my funds are safe, etc., etc. Sometimes this isn't the case. As we may
More
know.
often than not, you're right.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that's, in my opinion, that's worse than this milk being missold. Here you have the cow.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Putting images of something that didn't contribute to its manufacture and then putting it on the supermarket shelf would be bad enough, but on the online industry it's much worse because that is an Ethernet-based online industry
Yeah.
selling products to people all over the world.
Yeah.
Let's single out one particular villain of the piece here, shall we? Banque de Suisse, BD Suisse, here in Cyprus. BD Suisse, Banque de Suisse. It's not a bank. It's not Swiss. It has a Swiss flag as part of its actual corporate branding. Yet SciSec gave it a license and allowed it to be registered here in Cyprus, making these subconscious claims towards that. It's as Swiss as Aphrodite.
Okay. Yeah, I see your logic. Yeah. Okay. That you are curious sometimes to how the process of acceptance by a regulator can go through. Like when you put the pieces together. If I say the Advertising Standards Agency and things like this, if you're selling milk, you're selling milk. You're not selling orange juice.
That's right.
So how does... I'm curious myself. I don't know the procedure. I've never registered or regulated a company myself, so how does it work?
Well, you have to be specific.
Yeah,
You have to
yeah,
be
of course,
specific.
yeah, yeah.
Especially when you are portraying an online image to something.
Yeah.
There are standards.
Because image is everything with online.
It is.
It's 100%.
It is everything. That's
yeah.
your shop window.
Yeah.
And there are standards, especially with a regulated electronic financial product like that. And this is the thing, isn't it? We have a few examples of bank to binary. There's no such bank.
Yeah.
Spot option exchange. That's not an exchange. It's not
Yeah.
even a bilateral counterparty because there's no actual external feed whatsoever, even to an OTC market. So it's not even taking a bilateral feed
Yeah.
from a prime brokerage. It's, let alone being a centralized exchange.
Yeah.
So somehow this kind of thing is being allowed to prevail, yet distributing some particular promotion is the thing that the regulators are focusing on, and it's really bizarre. You can actually see quite categorically on some of the branding of these companies a Swiss flag,
Yeah.
which is a brand in itself.
Correct.
And it's weird that the Swiss banking authorities, FINMA, haven't actually gone to SciSec and to this particular company concerned and said, look, you're not a Swiss bank, you're not Swiss, pack it in.
Yeah, yeah. So how would you change this then? What would be your remedy?
Well, I think that, as a regulator, you can't tell companies what to call themselves.
No.
If you want to call yourself a banal name like FX Grow or FX Pig, which do exist, and they've actually garnered themselves a relatively loyal following because of this, so be it. But actually giving the impression that the company is something that it isn't is technically illegal and has been so since 1968. Here in Cyprus, British law prevails, I believe. The Trade Descriptions Act of 1968 doesn't allow this kind of practice.
Yeah.
But somehow the regulatory authorities are checking other things, like have you done your compliance properly? Are you making fair promotions to your customers? But the corporate branding of the company, in my opinion, is far more important because that is, it's a deliberate attempt to actually try to sway people's minds off something.
Yeah.
And it assumes that, even worse, it assumes that customers, whether they might be affiliate partners or brands or end users, are stupid. And once you start doing that, it's really not it's not a good business ethic.
I mean, the binary industry anyway is based upon a lower level knowledge set, shall we say, of clients, where they don't...
Well, it's not part of the financial sector. It's
no, it's not at all.
Business.
Yeah. So it is based upon essentially them losing.
That's right.
So
that's right.
You're not going to get an informed person, I would suggest.
No.
If I'm going to trade options, then I would go to one which I know is an exchange. This information is easy enough to find.
Yes, it is.
You don't have to be a rocket scientist or a market guru to find this. It's really straightforward to do this.
That's absolutely right, but that is too sensible.
Yeah.
That assumes that you and I, or anybody else in this industry who knows what they're doing, has understood the basics, the absolute basis of what constitutes a centralised counterparty, and why you should be only working with them. These particular companies, most of them, get their leads from gambling sites and from affiliate marketing and other specific, other non-financial industry, non-electronic trading backgrounds, and therefore it's all about the actual marketing image behind it.
Yeah.
I think in circumstances like that, the regulators should perhaps take the opinion that not everybody understands this properly, therefore they should try to put down a blanket law to stop this kind of practice.
I mean, to be fair to pan-European regulators, they are changing things, as we've seen in Northern Europe.
Yes, they are.
Things are changing, but I think the horse has bolted.
Yeah.
You've reacted far too late.
That's for sure.
You've been reactive instead of proactive.
For sure. You can't go to the NFA in America and register yourself as an NFA member saying that you're Swiss and you've got a Swiss flag, or saying that you're a bank when you're not, or saying you're a centralised exchange when you're not. This is not allowed and has never been allowed. You have the exchange, you have the futures sector in Chicago, which are electronic derivatives marketplaces. Those are long established and they're all regulated by the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission. They lay down specific aspects, and not one of them has any ambiguity as to what it is. CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, ICE, Intercontinental Exchange. NASDAQ is a North American exchange technology provider. It's all categorically very, very clear.
Yeah.
And all of these platforms which connect to them, trading technologies, make it clear that they are exchange-traded futures platforms.
Correct.
That's part of the remit. You can't go there and say, I'm a bank, I'm from somewhere else. They won't give you a license. It's not allowed. But everywhere else in the world, it seems to be a loophole.
Yeah. It is fascinating how... Look, I say get in a way that I don't mean it in that phrase, maybe I do, but it's quite blatant,
Very blatant.
If you are calling yourself a bank, even if you change the C for a K, the K for a C, you are saying you are a bank.
You are indeed.
I can therefore hold funds, give you an interest rate, and it's just, in my opinion,
Yeah.
it is quite misleading.
It's very misleading, and it's bizarre. Absolutely funny you should mention about the language. The whole thing is full of such a litany of errors that even the language it's attempting to look like a Swiss entity. So it has bank with a C, like as in French, bank de, but then you have a word in English afterwards.
Yeah,
which to anybody, even to the untrained eye, this would seem extremely bizarre and not plausible. But as you can see, there are many examples of these companies that are actually right at the top of their actual industry sector in terms of revenues because of this.
Would there be a comparison with other industries perhaps as well, like the casino industry? Were there names where, I don't know, it's called Zurich Casino
Maybe,
Online
or
or something?
Vegas or something.
Because if they are coming from that segment anyway,
are indeed, yes.
then their logic would say, okay, if we've done it here, we can do it there.
I think that's right.
You know, they are coming from a casino non-regulated industry,
They
then...
You know, if you try, I don't personally approve of gambling, and it is illegal in most countries,
Yeah.
but if you do travel around the world, you do notice in certain countries where it is legal, signs saying something like Vegas Casino, and a picture of the Vegas Strip in the background.
Yeah.
There's actually nothing to do with it. That is misleading, but it's not as bad because that's a physical venue.
Yeah.
You go there, you choose to go to a physical venue, you know that it's not that. You know it's just a branding exercise. But when you're on the internet and you're surrounded by a red and white background and a cross and words that say bank or exchange,
Yeah.
it really
Swiss
gives
safety.
That's right, Swiss
Yeah.
safety or banking safety or an exchange counterparty, when there really is no counterparty, not
Yeah.
even a bilateral counterparty. That, in my opinion, is much worse.
Yeah, that's it.
I think it's a serious matter, but I actually have approached SciSec. I don't know if you've ever had any dealings with SciSec on these kinds of branding issues.
Not particularly, no.
No. I approached them, really not much to say about it. Very...
I'm always going to stick up for them as well because they have a lot of work on.
They do have.
You know,
they do have.
If you think the amount of business interests that are in this country, whether it's retail, institutional, funds, they're not staffed as much as they are in London or New York.
No, they're not. By far
you
not.
know, and people,
By
it's
far
just such a popular destination for
That's
tax
right.
reasons, regulatory reasons.
That's right.
Maybe it's just not on their agenda, so to speak, of importance.
I think it might even not have been thought about.
Yeah.
Because it's not something which directly looks like a misrepresentation. It's not. They're concentrating on what's being sent out to customers or what's being promoted, things like that, products. But you're right. Cyprus, don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic venue.
Yeah.
You have now all of the bridge providers, the platform companies here, the prime brokerage services here. You have top quality retail sector here. 180 brokerages here. All of the support industry around it's top quality.
Yeah.
And it's increasingly becoming that way. Just one or two small examples of this, as you say, mostly in the binary sector, that have got themselves to a point where they are blatantly making this kind of marketing ruse. I think that's a problem.
Where you're getting more hedge funds coming here now, and it's the type of the market that we dabble in, I think they are going to crack down on it because they need to get rid of this lower end of the market for the higher end of the market to find it acceptable. Because if I'm a hedge fund and I'm coming here, I don't want to be tainted with the lower end.
Right.
You know, because 1 + 1 = 2. Like if I'm a client going to a hedge fund, I think Cyprus, oh, okay, what's going on here? You know, so they're going to have a big clip, which they are doing, and if you can see the fines that are coming out, you've got to take your hat off to them.
You have.
They have been quite a lot stronger.
That I agree with you. That's absolutely right, and that is all part of the strengthening of the environment, which will give a longer future and engender a good quality few years ahead to establish it. You know, the startup years have gone. It's now established. Everyone's here. The whole industry is here. People are knowledgeable.
If you want the hedge funds, the family offices, the super high net worth clients, which is slowly establishing here, then you just need to take care of business.
You do.
Essentially.
You do.
You know,
indeed.
it's no right or wrong, but it just has to be done.
That's right.
Where do you want to be in 10 years? Do you want to have your country's name tarnished with this brush, or do you want to be known as the next Luxembourg, the next Singapore?
Well, that's what it is. Cyprus is like that. It is like Luxembourg or Singapore, but it's got a very high level of of talent in terms of the FX industry. People here are very educated, they know what they're doing, they know the industry well, right the way through from all the components sensitive. But one or two examples of these marketing-led services that have nothing really to do with the core business are needing to be addressed, in my opinion.
Oh, definitely.
I might make the analogy of something. It's because it's such a technologically advanced business that it's used to bamboozle. If you make an analogy with the bottle of milk analogy, it seems funny and absurd, but it's the same thing.
But also, is it no different where the technologies move faster than the actual law, same as the American Constitution? Like, I'm not, without having a lot of hate mail sent to me, the right to bear arms. The reason why the law came in was to become the militia to stop the British taking back over the country. However, they've never changed it.
That's right.
And everybody's got a gun.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the same with the laws that we have with regards to this. It just needs to be adapted if it isn't been adapted currently, or it needs to be enforced more.
I think it will become that way. I believe that they will adapt it. I don't think it will be that difficult to adapt. But I really genuinely think it's not a malicious thing. I think it was just something that hasn't been thought about. How customers are approached, what products are sold, that kind of thing is more the focus than the actual corporate branding of the company.
Yeah, that's
what I think.
That's it.
So very interesting.
Fantastic subject. Really easy. Yeah.
Nice to see you, Paul.
Pleasure
Paul
as always.
MD Prime.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. All the best.